I'm gonna give you 7 ways to get better at soloing that don't require a lot of hard work. Because to actually improve, it's not just about your technique or your chops. It's a lot of things that you can employ right now with what you currently know to automatically improve. But as always, be sure to stick around till the very end of the lesson because I've got a free gift for you and your guitar. You're both gonna love it. All right, the first thing that you can do to automatically get better at soloing is to use confidence in the way that you play. That may seem like a tall order, but I'm telling you, confidence is not about the amount of technique you have. In fact, I've found that confidence really comes from being comfortable, right? And you can be comfortable playing anything, no matter what level it is. For example, you can confidently play a single note. Just put a little bit of stank on it, give it some mean vibrato. You know, there's little things that you can do to kind of zhuzh it up, but it really comes down to delivery, right? So just like speech. So if I were to deliver to you a speech and I was very timid and not sure what I'm talking about, you know, you wouldn't want to listen to me, right? But if I'm talking to you with confidence and with authority, I can tell you just about anything. But in playing, you're trying to send a very simple message. You're trying to send a message of music, right? And that comes from performance. It really does. So if you were to just play a single note, like this note in the A minor pentatonic, you know, 5th fret on the G string, just with your first finger, give it some like B.B. King style vibrato, where you just kind of like butterfly your fingers out and just do that kind of like almost like rotating motion with your wrist. And just let it sustain. And then when you pick it, you know, you could pick it with a little bit of authority. You could literally make a single note sound way more impactful with a little bit of confidence. Let me tell you a quick story. When I used to live in LA, there was a spot in Tarzana called the Sugar Mill, which was one of my favorite places to go to for epic blues jams. You'd have the best players from all around showing up and just letting it rip. It was awesome. And one night I was there just watching the blues jam. I didn't even want to play. I was just inspired and just wanted to see what was going on, you know? And the band was playing a slow blues jam. And when the guitar player was going for a solo, he played the simplest but just coolest sounding intro to a blues solo I think I'd ever heard anyone play. And he started off with this lick. I'll never forget it. It was... So, nothing fancy, right? Nothing like crazy. He wasn't going like... He wasn't doing anything like that. It was just something just real simple, just that bluesy, but just very authoritative lick that he played. And he was, you know, he was using this staccato that just like kind of made the notes kind of bounce, you know, just going. And I remember I got goosebumps when I heard that. And I was hooked from that moment on. And a big takeaway that I got from that was that it's all about confidence, man. If you can play something simple, but with authority and confidence, I mean, your solos will be way more impactful. So what you can do right now with what you currently know, even if it's just one note, like I showed you a little bit ago, you can just put a little stank on it, like I said, and actually play it with some gusto, and it'll just hit way harder than anything you've played previously. The next thing you can do right now to improve your soloing is to think about your guitar tone. Your guitar tone is literally the voice of your instrument. And if you want to make it sing, you got to make sure the tone reflects that. And of course, it's subjective. It's based on personal taste. Whatever tone you might like may or may not be the same kind of tone I like, and vice versa, right? But when you're thinking about your own guitar playing, you want to make sure that your tone reflects like what you hear in your head, what you're trying to deliver. And these days, you don't have to spend a ton of money on a bunch of gear in order to get the tone you want. You can just start with what you have, because they aren't often all the same sound, right? If you want something clean, you know, it matters like, you know, how much gain you're using, sometimes even what pickup configuration. So for example, on a Telecaster, I love the middle position for cleaner sound. And even though I'm running some overdrive right now, I can roll back my volume control, find a nice sweet spot, which for me, like the kind of clean sound, you know, air quotes that I like to use is something that's more on the edge of breakup, you know, so not like dead clean, but clear enough to actually translate as clean when I'm playing chords. And then if I want kind of a dirty rhythm tone, I'll bring a little bit of that volume back. And then wide open for some leads. The next thing you can do to improve your soloing right away is to exercise tempo awareness. Basically, set a speed limit for yourself. That's really important when you're going into a solo, because sometimes, like I've showed you before, it doesn't require a lot of notes to really get the message across if you're playing with confidence, and authority and good tone. But even though it's fun and exciting to want to venture into playing the fast stuff, believe me, I'm all about that. I think that stuff's great and it's fun and it's rewarding, right? But sometimes we can get a little overzealous and bite off a little more than we could chew, especially when we're in the heat of battle, playing a solo, right? Let's say if it's at a jam or even just at home to a backing track, Sometimes we want to go into a fast line or because we either want to impress ourselves, just kind of see what we can do. And that's all fine and good, but sometimes, and this, I'm speaking for myself, if I kind of overshoot, it just kind of derails the whole solo. So I may have been doing great, building up, playing some cool, authoritative ideas that were melodic and just sounded great, and then I just kind of derailed the whole thing with an attempt to play something real fast. Sometimes the temptation comes from, wanting to show what we got, right? Which is great, but here's the thing, like no one knows what you can do unless you show them what you can do, right? So if you are, let's say you live in the whole like playing a little bit slower, but with authority, you can absolutely do that. And then that's all the audience is going to know of you. But if you overshoot, like I talked about, and then you kind of derail and you crash and burn trying to play a fast lick, you've now exposed yourself as not quite being ready for playing that kind of stuff. So consider it like a goalpost thing, right? So you set the sort of speed limit on yourself based on what you're comfortable playing right now. And then you eventually move the goalpost as you get better and improve and build up on your technique. The next thing you could do to improve your soloing is to be more creative with your melodies. It may sound like a tall order, but it's really not. Making melodies is simple. Melodies don't have to be a lot of notes. Think about what a singer does. A singer can change the world with just a handful of notes sung well. And of course, lyrics play a part in that too, but it really just comes down to like the first things we talked about, confidence and authority. Doesn't require a whole lot of notes. But if you need some help in creating melodies, here's a tip I can give you that's really helped me. Something I call melodic makeovers. Basically what that means is you take a pre-existing melody, and it can be from anything. It could be from a nursery rhyme. It can be from a song that you like. Just take a small fragment of that. Let's take, for example, a classic example of this actually is Mary Had a Little Lamb by Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? He totally converted that like nursery rhyme or whatever into a classic blues standard. He essentially took the melody of Mary Had a Little Lamb and he adapted it to a blues context. And this is something you can start doing right now. Take, for example, you're playing like a Texas blues shuffle, right? Let's say in the key of F sharp. So you're playing the F sharp minor pentatonic scale. Here's how you can use the Mary Had a Little Lamb kind of melodic scheme to actually create a unique solo that doesn't sound like Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? Like the original melody, but it's been completely repurposed as kind of like a placeholder so you can have some melody to work with. You can bring it up an octave. So that was kind of an example of like repurposing Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? Just like starting from the idea of like what Stevie Ray Vaughan did and then just kind of showing you how that can work in action. It doesn't have to be over a Texas blues sounding thing. It can be over anything. You can take that melody, or that like rhyme scheme or whatever, and then just adapt it to the notes that you're playing in whatever given scale. By the way, if you're getting value out of this lesson, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. I got a whole lot more lessons coming your way, and that lets me know that you want to keep seeing them. So thanks in advance, and let's get back to business. The next thing you can do to improve your soloing is to be committed to your ideas. So if you start off a solo with one idea, don't just throw it away after one use. You can actually get a whole lot more use out of it. Just really milk it and actually create kind of a theme, a motif. And that's how you actually tell a story with a solo. You don't want a solo to just sound like a bunch of licks just glued together. You want it to actually have a flow. And this is where the confidence is going to come in too, because if you're confident in what you're doing, you're going to be multiple steps ahead of yourself before you even play, knowing what story you're going to tell with that solo. And again, it does not need to be complicated and it does not need to be flashy. So I'm going to throw on another backing track, completely different style. I'm going to start with my first idea and then just really work it and then expand on it from there. So start with a simple idea, make little changes, even repeat it if you feel like it works, and then just slowly expand from there and then venture into new melodic territory. There's a whole lot of mileage you can get out of a simple idea, so be sure you use it. Which leads me to the next thing that you can do to improve your soloing, which we touched on a little bit, is telling a story with your solo. Like any good story, a solo should have an arc. You should start in one place, end up in another, end up in another, end up in another, right? So yeah, you can milk an idea, let's say, and just like really get a lot of mileage at first, but you do want to expand from there. You want to build to some kind of climax, right? So what helps in situations like that is, let's say you start in a lower octave with that simple idea and you start to like expand on it a little, like little by little, then you move into a higher octave, right? And then you kind of revisit those ideas, but in a new octave, and they don't sound repetitive, they sound fresh and new just by virtue of being in an upper octave. And then if you got the room for it, you can go even higher to a higher octave and just like end it all with just like a big old fanfare, kind of like, you know, it's kind of like a really high screaming note. So that way you kind of reach that climactic moment, and you would have told a very good story just by doing that. And another thing you could do is narrate the story in your own head so that you can have something to cling to when you're thinking of like where this is going to go. And it doesn't have to be Hemingway, right? Just like come up with a real simple story idea. Let's just say like, I went to the grocery store, right? That just start there with that kind of phrase, okay? I went to the grocery store. You know, I had to buy some eggs. They were out of eggs. So I just bought beer instead. Now for the final and arguably most important thing you could do to instantly better your soloing is to let go of perfection. I'm just gonna say it, the pressure to impress can really hinder creativity. Kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. Like if I'm playing a solo live and a musician walks in, right? Or there's a group of musicians I know are in the crowd, and I think to myself, let me flex on them a little bit, right? Which I don't think like that anymore. That's how I used to think, you know, that doesn't matter to me anymore. You know, I just try to be honest and authentic as a player these days, you know, but every time I would try and do that, or I'd say like 8 out of 10 times, it never went like I thought it would, right? Or if, let's say, I managed to stick the landing on the lick, now I'm like, where is my solo even going? I just had this great flow, and then I just decided to, you know, try to impress, you know, some folks. And then now I'm like, where do I go from here? Like it really stifled my creative process in real time. And again, I advocate for playing fast and being flashy, you know, where appropriate, but it's got to be done tastefully and it's got to serve the song. That's the most important thing. It's got to be in service to the song, not in service of your own ego. So with your music, embrace simplicity. Find authenticity right there and then build on top of it. You don't have to just destine yourself to not being a fast player. You know, you absolutely can, but it's a process. You want to start with the simplicity, find the authenticity there, and then build on top of that. And it'll reflect on the stuff that you do that's more advanced. Music can be chaotic, so it's important that you communicate clearly, and the best place to start is keeping it simple. If you employ any number of these things that we've covered today, it will automatically improve the way that you solo. And I happen to have for you the perfect opportunity to really put this stuff to work and see for yourself. It just so happens to be that free gift I owe you. Here it is. This bad boy is a free guide on how to instantly solo in any key. Major or minor, any of the 12 keys in Western music, you're going to be able to solo in them in record time. This is the best lesson available for being able to do that. I promise you watch this one lesson, you're going to be amazed at how quickly and competently you can solo in any key. All of them, even the weird ones. Just be sure to click here to claim your free copy or check that link in the description box. Yogi Berra said it best. Wherever you are in life, there you are. You can take what you know right now and just apply these small concepts that are going to just really shift what you already can do, and you're going to see for yourself how it transforms your ability to solo.